She'll tell me when. Hi everyone, thank you so much for being today. My name is Anne. I'm talking to you about how to start a nonprofit and also just to debunk some of the myths that we have in entrepreneurship. It was so rude. I can't believe you did that. She'll tell me when to start. No, so it's easy. Easy. Hi everyone, my name is Aisha Addo. Thank you so very much for joining us today. I'm here to talk to you briefly about how to start it and also to debunk some of the myths that we've heard about social entrepreneurship and also nonprofits. So to give you a little bit of understanding, I run a nonprofit called Power2 Girls Foundation in Canada, in Ghana. And I recently also started a business called Drive Her. In order for you to actually understand why I started my nonprofit, I have to give you a background information as to who I am and how I actually got the passion for girls and women. So I am from Ghana and I came to Canada at the age of 14. And during that time, it was my teenage years. There was a lot of questions that I had about myself. Both my parents were in Ghana at that time. So I was living with, and it was really an interesting time because I was trying to figure out who I was as a young girl. I was trying to figure out what my place was in this world. And as younger, I wanted to be a lot of things. So essentially, what ended up happening was I ended up in the foster care system. And while in the foster care system, my foster mom told me, Aisha, you know, there's so many things that people expect you to be. People expect you to end up, you know, dropping out of high school. People expect you to end up becoming a drug addict. People expect you to end up becoming a teenage mother. And I was really shocked. And I think it was that moment that I realized that this is not going to be my story. This is not going to be my life. So essentially, what ended up happening was I started talking to some of the girls that were in my church. And I realized that there was a common thread between all of us, that some of the things that I was facing in terms of like trying to find who I was and trying to figure out myself, they were also going through the same thing. So we started talking and we decided and we're going to meet at our talk about our lives, the challenges that essentially that was how Power2 Girls came about. It became my baby. It became my passion. And I became the person that I needed for these girls. And they also, in a way, started mentoring me as much as I was mentoring them. So today I'm going to ask the questions that you guys sent in. If you have any questions in the section, try to get your community by going to some of the questions I had was, so let's start with the funding. Let's talk about this and what it's not. So if they want to start, and the only reason why you want to start a nonprofit, money, then you're in the wrong sector. And I say that because the reason why it's nonprofit is because you're a non-profit organization, even a business, because of what you want to do. I find that a lot of people start things mainly because they feel like, you know, it's a quick way to make money, you know, it's a quick way out, but you have to be passionate that you're actually also recognizing that what is that one thing that makes you upset, makes you excited, and makes you angry all at the same time. most of the time that is something that you're passionate about, because if your passion doesn't upset you or cause you to create a change, then it's, you have to deeper about why it is that you care so much about that cause. Okay, so again, nonprofit is an organization that essentially does not make money off of its cause. Not to say that there's not a way for you to actually incur income or for you to take care of your expenses, because that was one of the questions that we got a lot. And that is where social entrepreneurship comes in play. So social entrepreneurship is a registered for-profit business. However, proceeds from that goes to support another organization. So proceeds from your business goes to support a nonprofit organization. So that's where the term social entrepreneurship came into play. And also social entrepreneurship is a business that is designed for social good. So it may be tackling health, it may be tackling women empowerment, it may be tackling water, whatever it may be, right? There are a lot of social entrepreneurship companies out there as well. So let's see some of the questions that we have. You may be tackling water, whatever it may be, right? There are a lot of social entrepreneurship companies out there as well. So let's see some of the questions that we have. Awesome. So one of the main questions that I got was about how to get funding for a nonprofit organization. So in Canada, there are a lot of resources out there specifically for nonprofits or specifically for social groups. So that was how I first got my first funding. But before I actually got funding for Power to Girls, I was running Power to Girls out of my pocket for a good 3 years. Power to Girls has been around for the past 6 years. And for the first 3 years of the organization, everything was coming out of my pocket. So from getting food for the participants to providing transportation and all of those little things, it was all coming out of my personal pocket. One of the things that I realized and one of the things that helped me was I found organizations in Toronto that were doing things that I was passionate about. So I worked mostly with established nonprofits, and how I did that was I brought my program. So there was an organization called Yes for the Arts, and one of the things that they did was around. So one of the things that I realized was that they had a lot of programs, but they did not have any girl programming. So essentially what I did was I approached them and said, okay, well, I do want to work because I've been doing Power to Girls out of my pocket for a long time and I needed money to support that. So we made a connection and I brought my programs and my services to the organization. So for the people that are passionate about their causes, find organizations that are doing something but are also lacking your specific programming and then bring that to it. So essentially, a lot of people want to start their own thing, and I'm all for starting a business. I'm all for starting a nonprofit. I'm all for starting organizations. But one of the things that I think is very, very important is recognizing people that are already doing it and partnering up with them, right? So as opposed to just starting on your own, partner with people that are already in the sector, partner with people that can essentially also mentor you. So I ended up being paid to do what I love, right? And it was also really interesting because I got a chance to learn all the things that I needed to do in order to make Power to Girls succeed. And then also just growing my skills as an entrepreneur, growing my skills as a change maker, and growing my skills as a leader. So funding is a really big thing. You also have to look at people within your communities that have money to spare, if that's the right thing to say. But, essentially, if you're in a community where there's no structured resources or there's no structured ways of funding projects, you'd have to talk to family and friends. You'd have to do a fundraising. You would have to find donors, people that believe in your cause. But one thing that I also want to say is that if you do not believe in your vision or you do not believe in the projects that you're doing, it will be really hard for someone else to sort of fund you or for someone else to support it if you don't actually believe in yourself. And I hope you guys understand what I'm saying. So essentially, that was basically how I ended up funding my project. In Toronto, we also have various funding streams specifically for youth organizations, specifically for organizations that work with Black or marginalized youths. Another thing too is that please make sure that you have a niche. So if you're starting a nonprofit and you see that everyone is doing female empowerment, how can you put a spin on female empowerment that is going to make you stand out from the rest? Or like I said earlier, connecting with people that are already doing that and then, moving along with them. Do you do that help fund your organization? So someone asked, since I started out on my own budget, what career do I do that helps fund my organization? Right now, I work full-time with Power to Girls. Right now, everything that I do is Power to Girls and my business. And essentially, I studied accounting in school, but I do not practice accounting. My entire existence now has been on focusing on Power to Girls. So about a year ago, we got our first major funding for 3 years. And this was through the government of Ontario, Ontario Children Foundation. So that has been able to, in a way, sustain me now while we still look for other funding sources. So another thing that I'm going to say when it comes to nonprofits is that every single day you're looking for funding. And that is the reason why you always have to have a sustainability plan in place. You have to put together your sustainability plan because specifically for me and in Toronto, we depend on youth grants because we're youth, but we're not always going to be youth. So we have to find a way to actually get other resources, or we have to find a way for our causes to still be sustainable or to even live beyond us, right? So that is where social entrepreneurship comes into play. A lot of people ask questions of how they can turn their businesses into a nonprofit, or how their businesses can support their nonprofits. And I think the best thing that I'm going to say to you is that start where you are. If you're a lawyer, or if you are a fashion designer, if you are an accessory maker, if you're a jewelry maker, and you want to, let's say, empower girls, there are so many ways for you to empower girls. You don't have to empower girls only through, programs. You can teach them how to make clothes. You can teach them how to make beads. You can teach them how to make something. So it's also about the life skills, right? And if that is something that you realize that you're passionate about, connect to the people around your community. Because for me, I didn't have to go so far. I started with the girls that were in my church, and with those girls, and mind you, I started with 6 girls. And with the 6 girls, we grew to become 10. And then we grew to become 30. And then we started actually holding conferences and holding events and all of that stuff. So you always have to start where you are. I don't think it's best for you to think that you have to go out of your way to recruit people. Start where you are. So also look at the thing that you're already doing that can influence your passion and it can influence your business. Okay, someone also asked, I want to start a nonprofit that tackles sexual exploitation for girls and women. I live in Canada, but I don't know how to go about starting it. So if you do live in Canada, there is one of my mentors that I would actually connect you with. Please send me a note after. Her name is Cheryl Nemhart. She does work specifically with issues around sex trafficking, and she also did a documentary about that. So please connect with me after, and I'll most definitely do an email introduction. Okay, so what establishes your nonprofit organization? A website? I do not think that it is a website that, classifies it, or it's a website that actually makes it established. That makes it established. I think it's credibility, and you build credibility from the community that you're in. You build credibility from the people that you're working with. So if you are working with girls, for an example, always ask the girls to tell you how the program is impacting them, or how it's helping them grow, or if the actual objectives that you've set for your organization is being met. A website is great because it gives other people the chance to know more about your organization, but that is not what makes you credible. A website does not entail that you're a credible organization. your credibility comes from the people that you serve, and it comes from the people that you work in direct contact with. Okay, another question. How are you able to lead your foundation and business at the same time? Wow. Okay, so essentially, these are both things that I'm very passionate about. Everything that I do is around female empowerment. Everything that I do is around ensuring that the girl child has opportunities available to them. So it's something that I'm super passionate about. So I don't see it as doing two things. I see that it's two things that actually merge into one. But this is also around having people around you that believe so much in your vision that when you're not around, they can still carry it forward. I am presently in Ghana, and we have programs going on in Toronto at the moment, and my girls are actually taking care of that. They're leading the workshops. And I think part of running an organization or part of running a business is being able to raise leaders as opposed to trying to be the lord over everything, raising leaders and equipping people with the skills that they need to take things on when you're not around. And I think that is how you recognize that something is working, is when it can still go on without you being present. So another thing that we do as a sustainability module is actually grooming up the girls that come through our programs to also facilitate and to also lead their own workshops and to go back into their communities and reteach all the things that they've learned. And I think that's part of the reason why Power to Girls is what it is now, is because it was never really about me. It was never really about Aisha. It was more about the girls that we're serving and how can we equip them to better be equipped to do the things that they actually need to do. So that is how I managed it too. What requirements do you need to fulfill to start a nonprofit organization? Depending on where you are, it varies, but specifically in Toronto, you have to, of course, register. You have to have a board of directors. You have to pay a registration fee. You have to do a nuance name search, and essentially you put in the registration, and then after they let you know whether or not it's approved. If you do have questions around that, I'll put the link for Toronto specifically in the comment box later on. I want to become a social entrepreneur supporting wildlife through an existing startup making websites and applications. Okay, that's amazing, Felicity. All the best of luck to you. And also find people that are already doing something that you're doing and connect with them. There's so many resources out there and there's so many people that are doing amazing things. So if you're able to connect with them, all the better for you, because then you're able to learn from them and you're also able to gain new experiences. Wondering whether it's possible to be an entrepreneur and social entrepreneur at the same time, since we look for profits as entrepreneurs and positive impact or change as social entrepreneurs. Most definitely. I think it's most definitely possible to become a social entrepreneur and an entrepreneur at the same time. I do think it's the same thing. You just have to make sure that your impact, precedes everything else, and you also have to have your vision at the forefront of everything that you do. Don't make it like solely profit. If it's something that you're passionate about, please most definitely go for it. I would love to support widows in my nonprofit organization. How do I go about that? Find an organization that works specifically with women, or find an organization that works specifically with widows, and work together with them. Again, I am all for partnerships. Partnerships is a really big thing for me, because I think it really makes it easier for you to do your work and do it effectively. Because one of the challenges of running a nonprofit is always trying to figure out where your funding is coming from. Because number one, you're working with volunteers, you're working with youth, you have to feed them, you have to provide transportation, you have to do marketing, you have to, all of these things. So for me, I'm big on partnerships. If you could partner with someone to do something and do it effectively, then yes. And also when you build partnerships, it allows you to be able to work effectively. in a sense, because there are already people that care about what you're doing, and you're bringing your passion and your dedication to it. So I'm really big on partnerships. I always say that if you do not have the resources or you do not have the funds to do something and you're passionate about it, find someone that's doing it and connect with them. It makes the work so much easier. So I live in Nigeria, and I like a nonprofit organization protects the rights of women and girls. Could you help me connect with people I might network with? I know a lady in Nigeria that does girl empowerment. I would have to find her name and send it to you. So please, Mary, send me a note after the webinar, and I'll most definitely connect you with this lady. Okay, another question is, any other suggestions for documenting credibility, that is the people that are served outcomes? Okay, so I think when it comes to documenting photos, and in the age of technology, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and also videos, and sometimes just getting the people to write how something has been of impact to them. How has this program supported you? How has this program helped you? I think that is the best way to go about it. And if eventually you do end up building a website, put in all these testimonials on your website as well. But before you actually put people's images and videos out there, please make sure you ask for consent, and they actually do sign media release forms before you put it out there, because it's their image at the end of the day. What would you say was your biggest challenge in starting up Power to Girls? I think my biggest challenge would be funding, and that's the reason why I always say find partners. I think funding will be one of the big things, and one of the reasons why Power to Girls is what it is, and because it's successful, is because we had a niche, and a lot of people are starting organizations without a niche and are doing the same things over and over and over again. I think it's really important that you find where your niche is and go after it. So yes, Canada is a very multicultural, multilingual country, and our focus was specifically on Black girls, was specifically on marginalized girls, because we realized that there wasn't a lot of programs, there wasn't a lot of resources out there for them. So I think the first thing was funding for sure, but once we were able to identify what our niche was, it was also easier to articulate what our organization does. It was easier for us to get funding. It was easier for us to get supporters, because they also understood why our services were so important. So I think funding was the number one thing. I love that. Okay, awesome. Thank you so much. You said, okay, all right. Can you please repeat what you said about a nonprofit not earning any money? I missed that. Oh, okay. So essentially what I was saying was that a nonprofit organization is an organization that does not get profit. So technically speaking, a nonprofit organization doesn't make profit, right? But then there are ways to raise funds for the causes that you care about. But it's essentially a non-profit making entity. Can you talk about the pros and cons in running a nonprofit in North America versus in Ghana? Okay. Oh my God, this is going to go on forever because I have a whole list. So pros for North America, there are resources, there is access to funding, and you can always get donors. Pros for Ghana is that you're not limited by the things that your funder wants you to do. So for another con for North America is that most of the time you become limited to the requirements that a funder is asking. So you do not have as much flexibility. Pro in Ghana is that you have flexibility, but then the con is that there is no resources and there's no funding for nonprofits or social enterprises. So I think that's like one of the challenges. But if you have a nonprofit in North America and you also have a nonprofit in Ghana, you can always try to connect the two and get people to, in a way, support the work that you want to do in Ghana. So that's the two main things that I would say. How do you reach out and find an online global community, and how do you find supporters? I think, to be honest with you, Power to Girls didn't really start getting into the media landscape until I started my business. And because a lot of people wanted to know what the correlation between my business and me was, and I told them that I run a lot of programs for girls, and I've been in contact with a lot of girls. And some of the issues that I wanted to solve with my business was things that my girls were coming back to me and saying, okay, Aisha, these are some of the things that we're having trouble with. These are some of the things that we're finding difficult. So for me, it's always trying to find that connection between your business, your online community, and your nonprofit. How do those three things come together? Awesome. How do I send a note to you about starting a nonprofit that tackles, okay, by email. Okay, I would most definitely leave my email as well in the comment box after the webinar. Can you think of any groups I could partner with supporting wildlife through technology? To be honest with you, no, I cannot think of anything, but please leave me your email address and I would most definitely try to connect you with anything if it becomes available, if I see anything. But right now, I cannot think of anything right at this moment. How do you start partnering as a beginner? Well, I think first do your research. Within your community, what are the organizations that are already out there? And always asking for a meeting. I think it also comes back to networking, right? How do you network? It's the same thing. Go out there, know your stuff, do lots and lots of research about the field that you want to get into, and be confident in your idea, be confident in yourself, be confident, and recognize that, okay, everything that I'm going to talk about, I know what I'm talking about, and I've experienced this. I also feel like personal experience really helps in identify or actually helps in connecting with people. So just being authentic and being yourself and saying, hey, I know what it's like to not have a high self-esteem. I know what it's like to, be homeless. I know what it's like to be hungry. And these are things that my girls are facing on a regular basis. So when I talk about, supporting their work and supporting my organization, you're not supporting me. You're supporting all of these girls that on a daily basis, are struggling. So I think when it comes to partnership, personal experience, what makes your service different, what makes your service important, and why should people care, right? I think always trying to answer that question is, why should I care? So if you're able to actually answer that, it's easier for you to, navigate the little highs and lows of entrepreneurship. How do you go? Okay, so someone said, how do you go about raising funds? So again, in terms of raising funds, you have to find, depending on where you are, finding, government funds, private donors, family and friends. And then also in recent years, something that has become very, very popular is crowdfunding. So crowdfunding is when you put your idea online and you get people to essentially donate to the cause. So crowdfunding as well. We have done some crowdfunding in the past. I'm not a big fan of crowdfunding, but crowdfunding. And if you are going to do crowdfunding, make sure that you have an appealing video. You have everything is straight to the point. And with crowdfunding, you also have to give people some sort of a token of appreciation when they do support your cause. So crowdfunding as well is another way to raise funds. Okay, so I would also be grateful if you could send me any details you have of organizations working with children, young people, particularly around abuse, trafficking, etc., etc. So tell me, depending on where you are, I would be able to support. So please let me know, clarify where you are, and I would make that possible. Okay, so Susan also gave you a link to another organization in Cleveland that works with women that are being trafficked. Okay. So someone said yes to crowdfunding, but there is the risk of your idea being stolen. So I'm going to tell you something that one of my mentors said to me is that if your idea is stolen, then that person was not really your customer, or like that person doesn't really, they're not going to do it the way that you're going to do it, and I spoke at an event and I was telling them that you have to believe in your idea, and you also have to understand that an idea comes to you for a reason, you in particular for a reason. So regardless of how many times you feel, oh my God, someone is going to steal this idea, someone is going to do this before me, you have to trust your process and you have to trust your vision. What is that one thing that is going to make you different from everyone else? And I also say this, if you're running a nonprofit, right, and you think your nonprofit idea is going to be stolen, then no to nonprofits. And the reason why I say that is because there's so many people in this world that need help. And if your main focus is to support and is to help people, then your greatest fear should not be your idea being stolen. I think your greatest challenge should be, how can I do more, or how can I support these people? Because ideas are floating in and out of the system, and to an extent there's no original idea, but just stay true to yourself and stay true to your process, and have confidence and have faith that it came to you for a reason and you're going to be able to execute it. So don't be scared of your idea being stolen. And before you actually put your idea out there, if your idea being stolen is an issue for you, make sure that you're registered, make sure that you have all your patents, all your intellectual property, all your trademarks, and all of that stuff. Make sure that you have everything before you do a crowdfunding. But if it comes to nonprofits, we're all reinventing the wheel, and there's a lot of nonprofits out there. So yeah, just stay true to that, and you should be fine. Okay, let's see. Can you combine social entrepreneurship with other businesses? Yes, you can. You can always merge the two together. I think, again, when it comes to social entrepreneurship, it's really a business that is working for social good. So it's not necessarily just making profit, but it also has a social arm to it. So they have a cause that they're really passionate about, that they support. So you can most definitely put the two together. Someone said, is it a priority to have an office space at the onset? No. And I say no because I started Power to Girls out of my house and at the church that I was at. Having a specific office space, you also have to understand that that comes as an expense. So if you have the funds to have that expense, and to incur that expense on a monthly basis, then most definitely. I don't think it's like a heavy thing that you need to have, like when you're starting your nonprofit or when you're starting your business even. A lot of people have home offices, and I think that's great. Again, coming back to what I said earlier, start where you are. Look at where you are, like exactly where you're at, and how can I make use of the things that are around me. You can start a nonprofit at a very, very minimal stage. It doesn't have to be a world vision when you start. It doesn't have to be a Plan Canada when you start. Start where you are, and you'll be able to cause a lot of change. You'll actually be able to cause more changes when you do not have so much expenses. So yeah. Okay. Okay. Question about crafting mission statements. What advice do you have for finding focus and making it dynamic? My question is, why are you starting, right? So always come back to what you're passionate about. Always come back to why you felt it necessary to start this organization. Why do you think it's so important for other people to understand why female empowerment is important? So I think it's really coming back to why is this important, and then also what do I want to do? What are the changes I want to create? What are the things that I want people to, like when you say power to girls, what do you want to be the first thing that comes into people's minds when they hear power to girls, right? So I think it's really finding that tune within yourself and connecting, like really connecting with yourself. But also, if you do want actual resources, I can send that to you also at the end of the webinar. Please drop your email and I'll send you a link. Okay, awesome. So I think I've answered most of the questions. Please, if I did not answer your question, please send it over again. Yes, I think I answered everything. So I think I'll also want to give you guys a couple of hacks in terms of starting an organization or starting a business or whatever it may be. I'm going to repeat some of the things that I said earlier, which is start where you are. You know, look around you. What is the thing that is making you upset? What is the thing that is making you lose sleep at night? That most definitely is your passion. So please most definitely start there. Start where you are. The second thing that I would say also is when it comes to working with people and when it comes to finding people that actually believe in your vision and believe in your vision, make sure that you're connecting with people that are passionate. And when we started Power to Girls, one of the things that I always asked when I was interviewing a volunteer is, what do you care about? What are you passionate about? Because if you're coming in here without passion of your own, then it's not going to work out. So what is the one thing that you as a person you're passionate about? And how does your passion feed into what we're doing? And how can you actually live out your best and authentic self through what we're already doing, right? So I think it's really important to ask some of these questions when you're interviewing people to be volunteers. And I understand that volunteers are not paid, so we normally want to just take and accept everyone that walks through the door. No, you have to treat your nonprofit like it's your life and it's your livelihood and it's everything that you are. And if you're treating it like that and it's your life, you don't just allow anyone into your life, right? So you have to be selective in terms of the people that you allow to volunteer for you, the people that you work with. I'm always big on in-person meetings. So if I'm going to do like an interview for a volunteer, I'm not going to do a phone interview. I would do an in-person interview because I want to fill you out. I want to see if you're a good fit. I want to see if, like, you know, we connect, if we click, you know. That's just me. Everyone has their own things. Also, establish a culture within your organization that makes it easier for people to relate to you and also to relate to the cause. So establishing a culture may be, let's say you guys meet every Sunday or you meet every Saturday or whatever, and then once a month you do like, you know, a day out where you just go for lunch, you go to dinner, and you just talk. You know, one of the things that we're actually very excited about at Power to Girls is that we all know each other. We did not know each other when we started. We did not know each other when we all came on as volunteers, but essentially built a relationship with each other. So if you are a leader and you seek to become a leader, make sure that you're building authentic relationships with the people that you're working with. And again, do not feel like you need to lord over your people. Working together is what makes the dream work, because it's essentially not about you, it's about the cause and it's about what you're doing. So please be mindful of that. I would like the link, okay, all right. We're focusing on building resilience in displaced communities in Nigeria. Do you have any suggestions for partnerships? So in Nigeria, there was only one lady that I know that does stuff around female empowerment. So I would connect with her and then I'll ask her if there's any other organizations out there that are doing things, and I'll most definitely send that over. I know a little bit about organizations in Ghana and also a little bit about organizations in Canada. Nigeria, I've not been yet, so unfortunately, I cannot give you much information as I wish I could. So a quote that I read today, actually, that I wanted to share with everyone goes, the secret of getting ahead is getting started. So if you have a passion for something and you have dedication and you are determined to actually make it work, then yes, please go ahead. The worst thing that could happen is failure. And failure is not even the worst thing that could happen, because failure is really teaching you something. Again, we did not start and have everything figured out. We had to start somewhere and eventually figured out, okay, well, this is what our niche is. this is what we want to focus on, and this is what our sustainability plan is going to be. So again, figure out what it is that you want to do, figure out what you're passionate about, figure out why you're so upset about it. Why does trafficking upset you? Why does girl child education, why does that upset you? Why are you so upset about that? And it's okay to be upset. Once you figure that out, then you're also going to figure out, okay, well, now I figured out what upsets me. What am I going to do about it? How am I going to go about it? Who are the people that I need to talk to? Please find mentors. Mentorship is key. Very, very vital when you're on this road. Another thing that I'm going to say is self-care. Because we work with people and we work with marginalized communities, and we work with people that are constantly telling us stories about themselves, about the issues that they face, it can become very taxing and it can become very exhausting. So one of the things that I would say is please self-care. Take care of yourself. Take care of your mental well-being. From time to time, go to the spa, sit down, and don't do anything. From time to time, turn off your phone, get off social media, and just really recuperate, right? Because a lot of energy goes out when you're doing stuff like this, and you want to make sure that you're giving back from a full cup and not from an empty cup. So please, self-care is very, very, very important. Okay, so when it comes to having confidence in your ideas, I'm almost done, I promise. But believe in yourself, and like I said earlier, recognize that your passion or the idea that you have came to you for a reason, and running with it requires you to be true to yourself, and running with it requires you to be authentic to yourself. So start where you are and believe in yourself, believe in your power to create change, and you'll make it happen. Does anyone have any final questions? How can one get a mentor? How do you get the courage to just start that one thing that is burning in your heart? Prince, just start. Don't be afraid of anything. Just start, and start where you are. I think starting is the hardest part. Once you start, you're going to be able to figure out the next steps. How does one go about finding a mentor? So mentors are everywhere. Mentors can be online. Mentors can be across the world. So as part of Power to Girls' project, we have also started a new platform that essentially connects mentors and mentees. So it connects girls to women that are all over the world, and then also women to young girls that are all over the world, and for them to find that support that they need, right? So I am going to put I know I have to put a lot of links, so I'm going to put all those links in the comment box as well, and you can most definitely check it out. That can be a great start to finding a mentor. But then another thing that you can do is really, who is that one person that you admire? What is the thing that they're doing that makes you admire them, and learn from them? Also recognize that there's so much information out there. There's a lot of people that are doing YouTube channels now on business, on social entrepreneurship, and all of that stuff. So search it up, look it up, and you can also always connect with She Leads Africa and ask if there's a lot of articles, and there's a lot of things put on a daily basis. So that's when it comes to mentorship. There's a lot of information out there on it. Snaps fingers. Okay. Okay. Awesome. I think I answered all of the questions, but if I did not, I'll most definitely please reach out to me, of course, and I would be more than happy to answer your questions. But I am going to leave you guys with a little bit of information before I sign out. She Leads Africa is an amazing platform for women and I think men alike, that are looking into changing Africa. So please check them out. Join subscribe to their channels, subscribe on, to their mailing list, so that you can get all of these information, on a daily basis. Also, check out Power to Girls Foundation. I'll put the website in the comment box as well. And also check out, my new ventures as well. But essentially, one thing that I want to leave for the women that are on this platform is that women, we have to support each other. Please, please support each other. Support your own, and create that environment that allows people to grow, and create that environment that allows people to, that nourishes everyone else. But until next time, please stay true to yourself. Um, in your pursuit of happiness and in your pursuit of success. Start where you are and just do you. That's all you can ever be, is yourself. Thank you guys so very much for tuning in as well. Oh, thank you. You're awesome too. Oh, bye. I didn't know how to get up. So I'm just gonna be here for a while. I'm still like